What if I told you that the deepest secrets of our universe weren't just hidden in a bunch of super complex equations, but in a single ancient symbol? Well, today, that's what we're diving into. We're going to tackle one of the most mind-bending theories out there, Eric Weinstein's geometric unity, and we're going to use the image of a serpent eating its own tail to unlock the whole thing. Right? This symbol is called the Ouroboros, and for the next few minutes, it's going to be our guide. See, it's more than just a cool drawing. It's like a blueprint for a system that creates, defines, and consumes itself in one single endless loop. The absolutely radical idea behind geometric unity is that our universe, it works in exactly the same way.
So let's use this serpent as our map. We're going to explore how the universe could be this totally self-contained thing, defining all of its own parts and maybe even running on its own paradoxes. First up, let's make that connection between the ancient symbol and the cutting-edge theory.
Okay, so first, a super quick refresher on the symbol itself, just so we're all on the same page. The Ouroboros, it's popped up in cultures all over the world for thousands of years, and it pretty much always stands for the same fundamental idea: a closed system, a cycle of life and death and renewal, and a reality where everything is ultimately connected in one great big loop. So keep that image locked in your mind. Now this is where the big shift happens. On the left, you've got the physics we all kind of know. You have particles and forces, they're the actors, and they're performing on a stage called space-time. But geometric unity on the right says, nope, that's wrong. It says the stage is the actor. The universe isn't some show happening in a theater. The twisting, turning, curving geometry of the theater is the show itself.
So, if the actors and the stage are the same thing, what does that even mean? Well, it implies that the entire show has to be completely self-contained. There's nothing outside of it. And this idea leads to a whole new vision of what reality is.
Weinstein gives this a name, the observerse. He thinks it's a 14-dimensional reality. And those extra dimensions, they're not just for fun. You need that much geometric room, so to speak, for all the particles and forces we know to emerge. But the key idea here is that it contains everything. You, me, the stars, everything. There is no outside. It is the Ouroboros, a perfect self-contained loop.
Okay, hold on. That's a great big picture. But it brings up a huge question right away. If reality is just this single, unified, geometric object, the body of the serpent, then why does it look like it's made of so many different separate parts? Like electrons and photons and quarks and all that stuff. So, how can one thing look like it's a bunch of different things? Well, the answer is just as elegant as the symbol itself. Think about the scales on the serpent. The particles we see and measure are like those individual, glinting scales. Yeah, they look distinct, but they aren't separate things at all. They are all just different features of one single, unified body.
And this breaks it down beautifully. Think about it like this. Gravity isn't just some force pulling things around. It's the very skin of the serpent, the metric that defines what distance even means. And those force fields that connect everything, that's like the shimmering color that plays across the scales. And matter, like an electron, that gives each scale its tough structural integrity. Everything gets reclassified by the job it does for the whole system.
All right, so particles are just different jobs that the geometry is doing. But what makes it all work? What's the engine that's driving this whole cosmic loop? I mean, how does the serpent actually bite its own tail?
So, the theory has a fancy name for its engine, the Cheops operator, but let's just think of it as the serpent's consciousness. Look at this process. The universe, in all its 14-dimensional glory, bites down, and it projects this simple shadow of itself into our 4D world. And that shadow, that's everything we see and measure. Then it coils back, observing that shadow to make sure the entire system holds together. It's like the universe is constantly looking at its own reflection to make sure it all makes sense.
And what's so cool is how this model translates these, really abstract concepts into actual mathematics. What we might call a hidden order in the universe is, in this theory, the literal geometric shape of those hidden dimensions that determine why we have 3 generations of particles. The spark of creation? Well, that's just the quantum fluctuations that are always bubbling away.
All right, get ready for maybe the most radical idea in this whole thing. For centuries, physics has been searching for perfect harmony, right? But geometric unity says the exact opposite, that reality is born from conflict. It actually needs paradox to even exist.
So here's the key takeaway.
All those things that look like mistakes in our current theories, inconsistencies, glitches, paradoxes, they might not be problems we need to solve. They might be the very engine of reality itself. The friction between different parts of the universe is what generates existence. A perfectly consistent, inert system would just be, well, nothing.
And of course, the biggest paradox in all of physics is the clash between our two most successful theories ever. General relativity gives us this smooth, beautiful picture of the whole universe, the big stuff, while quantum mechanics gives us this chaotic, jumpy, statistical picture of all its tiny parts. They both work perfectly, but they are fundamentally incompatible. Geometric unity's grand ambition is to create a single structure where these two opposites can both be true, existing in this state of creative tension.
And all of this, it all leads to the final and, frankly, most startling conclusion. The serpent's head is about to meet its tail, because this is where the observer, this is where you and I actually enter the cosmic loop.
I mean, really think about this for a second. If the universe is one closed loop, then our attempt to understand it isn't some outside observer looking in. No, it's the system itself, becoming self-aware. The very consciousness that evolved inside this geometry is the universe's way of understanding its own existence. In a very, very real sense, we are the Ouroboros opening its eyes for the first time.
So this theory, in the end, doesn't just describe the universe, it describes a universe that is, through us, thinking about itself. Which leaves us with one final, mind-bending question for you to chew on.